Hard to believe, we lost a legend like Gene Hackman.
Yeah.
His performances have been such a part of cinema history for so long.
Right.
It feels like he'll always be with us, at least on screen.
Absolutely. He was one of those rare actors who truly disappeared into his roles.
Right.
You never felt like you were watching Gene Hackman. You were watching Popeye Doyle.
Exactly.
Royal Tenenbaum, Little Bill Daggett.
Exactly. But, in preparing for this deep dive, I was struck by how much more there is to his story than just the iconic roles.
Oh, yeah.
We have excerpts from his biography, Gene Hackman, Life and Legacy of a Hollywood Icon,
Okay.
and an in-depth obituary from The Independent. And let me tell you, his journey to those iconic roles was anything but a straight shot to stardom.
That's what's so fascinating about Hackman.
Yeah.
His life story almost reads like one of his films, full of unexpected twists and turns. He had a pretty difficult childhood. Born in 1930, moving from place to place, his parents ultimately divorcing.
And doesn't stop there.
Yeah.
His father left when he was young,
Right.
and later his mother tragically died in a fire.
Oh, wow.
It makes you wonder how those early experiences of loss and instability might have shaped his approach to acting, his ability to portray those raw, emotionally complex characters.
It's hard to say for sure, of course, but there's definitely a connection there.
Right.
You can't fake that kind of lived-in experience he brought to the screen.
Yeah. What stands out to you about that connection?
I think.
Well, take his decision to join the Marines at just 16.
Wow.
He even lied about his age to enlist. 5 years of service, including time as a radio operator in China. That kind of discipline and exposure to the world must have had a profound impact on him.
It definitely speaks to his resilience and his adventurous spirit.
Yeah.
And speaking of adventure, there's that great anecdote about him encountering a former drill sergeant while working as a doorman in New York. Oh, yeah.
The sergeant apparently scoffed and said, "I knew you'd never amount to anything."
Talk about motivation.
Right.
You almost wonder if that dismissive comment fueled his fire to prove everyone wrong. Because right after that, he decides to pursue acting.
Wow.
Even though he and his classmate Dustin Hoffman were voted least likely to succeed.
Can you imagine those two sharing a flat?
I know.
Struggling to make it in New York, honing their craft.
It's amazing.
It's the quintessential struggling artist story.
Yeah.
Made even more remarkable by their eventual success.
Right.
It speaks to their shared passion and their unwavering belief in their abilities.
And speaking of unlikely beginnings, we have to talk about his breakthrough role in Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah.
It wasn't an instant rise to the top for him. He'd been working steadily for years before that.
Right. But Bonnie and Clyde was the game changer.
Yeah.
Warren Beatty, who was already a star, specifically chose Hackman for the role of Buck Barrow.
Wow.
After seeing him in an off-Broadway play.
Right. It was a gamble on Beatty's part, and it paid off brilliantly.
It certainly did that. That performance earned Hackman his first Oscar nomination.
Right.
And launched him into a whole new stratosphere.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me is that even in that early role, you can see those flashes of intensity and depth that would become his trademark.
That's a great observation.
Yeah.
There's a rawness and authenticity to his portrayal of Buck Barrow, a sort of lived-in quality that was unusual for Hollywood at the time.
Yeah.
It's as if he brought his own experiences of hardship and resilience to the role.
And then just a few years later, he completely blew everyone away with The French Connection.
Right.
That gritty, unforgettable performance as Jimmy Popeye Doyle.
Yeah.
It solidified his place in film history and earned him his first Oscar.
The French Connection is such a pivotal film in his career.
Right.
It showcases his ability to inhabit characters who are both tough and vulnerable, morally ambiguous, even flawed.
Right.
Doyle is a classic anti-hero driven by his own code of justice. Yeah. And Hackman brings him to life with such intensity and complexity.
And that subway chase scene.
Oh, yeah.
It's considered one of the most iconic action sequences ever filmed.
Absolutely.
You can practically feel the tension and grit radiating off the screen.
The interesting thing about that scene is that much of it was improvised.
Oh, wow.
Director William Friedkin gave Hackman a lot of freedom to explore the character and the situation. And that resulted in a level of realism and spontaneity that was groundbreaking for its time.
Wow.
Hackman didn't just play the role, he embodied it.
Speaking of embodying roles, we can't forget about Lex Luthor in Superman.
Ah, right.
It was a complete departure from the tough, streetwise characters he was known for, and yet he absolutely nailed it.
It's a testament to his range and his willingness to take risks.
Yeah.
He brought a sly intelligence and a wicked sense of humor to Luthor, creating a villain who was both menacing and strangely charismatic. It's one of the most memorable performances in superhero movie history.
And that's what's so remarkable about Hackman's filmography. The sheer diversity of roles he tackled.
Yeah.
From gritty cop dramas to comedies, historical epics, to sci-fi thrillers.
He did it all.
He consistently delivered powerful, memorable performances.
It's almost as if he deliberately sought out roles that would challenge him, that would allow him to explore different facets of human nature.
Right.
He wasn't afraid to push himself to take on characters who were complex, even unlikable at times.
And he didn't shy away from working with a wide range of directors.
No, he didn't.
From seasoned veterans like Arthur Penn and Clint Eastwood to up-and-coming filmmakers like Wes Anderson.
That speaks volumes about his dedication to his craft.
It really does.
He was always looking for stories that resonated with him.
Yeah.
Regardless of the genre or the director's reputation.
Right.
He was drawn to compelling characters and thought-provoking narratives.
So even in the early stages of his career, we see this pattern emerging.
Yeah.
The difficult beginnings
that
instilled a sense of resilience.
Right.
The unexpected path to acting that speaks to his determination and the willingness to embrace challenging roles that showcase his versatility.
That's right.
It's almost like he was destined to become the complex, nuanced actor we all admire.
It's a fascinating journey, and we've only just begun to scratch the surface.
Right.
But before we move on to the next chapter, I'd like to pause here.
Okay.
And ask you what strikes you most about Hackman's early life and his rise to stardom. I think what strikes me most is that sense of purpose that seemed to guide his choices, even when his path was unconventional.
It's like he was constantly seeking authenticity.
Exactly.
Both in his life and in his work.
Exactly, and that authenticity shines through in so many of his performances, even when he's playing characters who are far from perfect.
Right.
Take Scarecrow, for example.
Sure.
He and Al Pacino, as these two drifters, each carrying their own baggage, forming this unlikely bond on the road.
It's such a powerful and moving film.
It is.
Their performances are so raw.
Yeah.
So emotionally resonant. You could feel the weight of their shared experiences.
Right.
Their struggles, their hopes.
And that rawness likely stems from Hackman's own early struggles.
Right.
He brought a sense of vulnerability to those tough guy roles.
Yeah.
That was unusual for the time.
Yeah, think about his portrayal of the Reverend Scott in the Poseidon Adventure.
Oh, yeah.
He's a man of faith.
Right.
But he's also a man of action, willing to fight for survival.
And he doesn't shy away from challenging authority, even when facing unimaginable circumstances.
There's a scene where he confronts the ship's captain, questioning his decisions, demanding accountability.
Yes.
It's a powerful moment that speaks to Hackman's own independent spirit.
It's interesting you bring up that scene.
Yeah.
It highlights another aspect of Hackman's acting.
Okay.
His ability to convey moral complexity.
Yeah.
He often played characters who were caught between right and wrong.
Right.
Grappling with difficult choices.
Like in Night Moves, where he plays a private investigator.
Yes.
Caught in a web of deceit and danger. He's a good man trying to do his job, but he's also flawed, driven by his own demons.
Night Moves is a great example of neo-noir.
Oh, okay.
Which, for those unfamiliar, is a modern take on classic film noir.
All right.
Often featuring cynical detectives and morally ambiguous characters. And Hackman was brilliant at capturing that sense of moral ambiguity.
Yeah.
That internal conflict between duty and desire.
And let's not forget his chilling performance as Sheriff Little Bill Daggett.
Oh, yes.
In Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven.
Yes.
He won his second Oscar for that role.
He did.
Best Supporting Actor.
Wow.
He's a terrifying figure.
Yeah.
A symbol of brutality and corruption.
Right.
But Hackman also manages to imbue him with a strange kind of humanity.
It's a masterclass in acting.
Yeah.
He conveys so much with just a gesture, a subtle shift in tone. Right.
He doesn't need to overact or grandstand.
Right.
He understands the power of restraint.
And it's worth noting that he chose to retire from acting in 2004 at the height of his career.
Wow.
He didn't want to go out on a sour note, as he put it.
Yeah.
He wanted to end on a high, and I think he absolutely achieved that.
His decision to retire speaks volumes about his integrity as an artist.
Right.
He wasn't chasing fame or fortune.
No.
He was driven by a desire to tell stories that mattered.
Yeah.
To create characters that resonated with audiences.
But he didn't just disappear completely.
Right.
He found a new creative outlet.
Okay.
Writing.
Right, okay.
He co-authored 4 historical fiction novels with Daniel Lenihan and even published 2 solo novels.
Clearly that creative fire was still burning strong.
Yeah.
And it makes sense when you think about all those complex characters he brought to life on screen.
Right.
He obviously had a deep understanding of human nature.
Right.
And a gift for storytelling. So even in retirement, he continued to explore the human condition.
Yeah.
Albeit through a different medium.
Absolutely.
It's a testament to his lifelong love of learning.
Yeah.
And his desire to keep pushing himself creatively.
Absolutely. And it reminds us that there are many chapters in a person's life.
Right.
And sometimes the most unexpected turns can lead to the most fulfilling experiences.
Now, before we move on to Hackman's later career and his legacy, let's take a moment to appreciate the sheer range of his work.
Right.
We've talked about his gritty dramas and his chilling portrayal of villains, but he also had a knack for comedy.
That's right. His comedic timing was impeccable.
Yeah.
Think about his role in Young Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah.
Pure comedic genius.
He brought a certain dryness, a subtle wit to his comedic roles that was just delightful.
Yeah.
And, of course, we can't forget his performance as the eccentric, estranged patriarch in Wes Anderson's The Royal Tenenbaums.
That role showcased a completely different side of Hackman.
It did.
He embraced the quirkiness and the absurdity of Anderson's world, delivering a performance that was both hilarious and surprisingly touching.
It's amazing how he could seamlessly shift between genres, from intense dramas to laugh-out-loud comedies.
He did it all.
It speaks to his incredible versatility as an actor.
He wasn't afraid to take risks.
No.
To experiment with different styles and tones. And that fearlessness, that willingness to embrace the unexpected is part of what makes his work so compelling.
It's like he was constantly challenging himself, pushing the boundaries of his craft. He never settled for the easy or the familiar.
And that's what makes him such a fascinating subject for this deep dive. His career is a testament to the power of hard work, dedication, and a relentless pursuit of excellence.
So as we transition into the latter part of his career, what are some of the key takeaways that stand out to you about Hackman's approach to acting? His incredible range and his commitment to authenticity.
Right.
It's like he had this innate ability to tap into the core of a character.
Yeah.
To find the truth beneath the surface, regardless of the genre or the setting.
You're absolutely right, and I think that stems from his dedication to his craft.
Yeah.
He wasn't just going through the motions.
Right.
He was constantly studying, observing, working to understand the nuances of human behavior.
He was also known for being very selective about his roles.
Yes.
Even turning down parts that could have been major box office hits.
Right.
He wasn't driven by fame or fortune.
Right.
He was driven by a desire to tell stories that mattered to him.
Yeah.
To work on projects that challenged him as his actor.
And that selectivity is reflected in the quality of his filmography.
Yeah.
He consistently chose films that were well-written, thought-provoking.
Right.
And often pushed the boundaries of conventional storytelling.
Like The Conversation, for instance.
Oh, yeah.
A psychological thriller that explores themes of surveillance, privacy, and the ethics of technology.
Right.
It's a film that's even more relevant today than when it was released in 1974.
Absolutely. And Hackman's performance as Harry Call, a surveillance expert who becomes increasingly paranoid and disillusioned, is nothing short of brilliant.
It really is.
He captures the character's isolation, his obsessive nature, his growing sense of unease with remarkable subtlety.
Yeah, and The Conversation is also a great example of how Hackman was drawn to films that explored the darker side of human nature, the complexities of morality. And we see those themes echoed in Mississippi Burning.
Yes.
Where he plays an FBI agent investigating the murders of 3 civil rights workers in the 1960s South. He's a man who's forced to confront his own prejudices and the deeply ingrained racism of the society he's trying to protect.
It's a powerful and disturbing film
that
tackles a very sensitive subject matter.
Yeah.
And Hackman brings a raw intensity and emotional depth to his role.
He does.
You can sense his struggle, his internal conflict. Right.
As he navigates the treacherous landscape of racial tension and violence.
Even from his later career, he continued to seek out roles that challenged him.
He did.
In The Firm, He plays a ruthless lawyer with a dark secret.
Yeah.
And he's absolutely chilling.
Right.
He can convey so much with just a look, a gesture, a subtle shift in tone.
It's a testament to his mastery of his craft.
Yeah.
He wasn't afraid to embrace the villainous side of a character.
Right.
To explore the motivations and complexities that drive someone to do terrible things.
And it's not just about his talent as an actor.
Right.
He also seemed to have a knack for collaborating with other talented individuals.
Yeah.
Both in front of and behind the camera.
He did.
He worked with some of the greatest directors of his time.
That's right.
Including Arthur Penn, William Friedkin, Francis Ford Coppola, Clint Eastwood, and Wes Anderson.
His ability to build strong working relationships with directors is a testament to his professionalism, his collaborative spirit.
Right. And his deep understanding of the filmmaking process.
Right.
He wasn't just an actor delivering lines.
Yeah.
He was a partner in bringing the story to life.
And he wasn't afraid to share the screen with other talented actors.
Right.
Often elevating their performances in the process.
Yeah.
Think about his collaborations with Al Pacino, Dustin Hoffman, and Robert De Niro.
It's fascinating to watch those dynamics unfold on screen.
It is.
You can sense the mutual respect, the shared commitment to excellence. It's like they're pushing each other to be better, to dig deeper, to create something truly memorable.
So, as we reflect on Gene Hackman's extraordinary career, I think it's clear that he was more than just a talented actor.
Absolutely.
He was an artist, a storyteller, a master of his craft.
Right.
He left behind a legacy of powerful performances, memorable characters, and thought-provoking films that continue to resonate with audiences today.
Absolutely. He had a profound impact on cinema.
Yeah.
And his work will continue to inspire and influence generations of actors and filmmakers to come.
Right.
And while he may have retired from acting, he never stopped being a student of life.
Right.
A seeker of truth and a teller of stories.
Yeah.
He simply found new ways to express his creativity and share his insights with the world.
And for that, we are truly grateful.
Yes.
So as we conclude this deep dive into the life and legacy of Gene Hackman, let's remember him not just for his iconic roles, but for the man. He was a complex, talented, and deeply human individual who touched the lives of millions with his art.
Beautifully said. And for our listeners, I encourage you to revisit Hackman's films, to explore his writing, and to appreciate the depth and breadth of his artistry.
Right.
He may be gone, but his work continues to offer a window into the human soul.
Yeah.
A reminder of the power of storytelling to connect us, to challenge us, and to make us feel deeply.